Can you
No, it isn't. That's not why they're coming us back. That's not true. No, but that's not that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied.
They're not coming. That February Oval Office they're coming here tomorrow in front of television cameras.
But that's not true. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal.
Clinton Jaws, is there anybody better than Marco Rubio right now? Nobody confronts the media. Nobody deals with the media better than this guy.
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked in the media. That's an irrelevant question. They have everything they need to build a weapon.
That is the key point in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's not.
The political decision had not been made.
I know that better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? That's a misleading headline.
Please make a comment on this video. It's the only thing I care about. Marco Rubio, he talks to meet the press and face the nation just yesterday. I watched it. Again, he delivers. Let's take a look.
We begin with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who attended those.
I forgot about this, but this guy had me at hello. Watch how he says hello or hi. I can't remember, but I'm just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good.
Talks in Anchorage. Good morning to you, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning.
Good morning. What is that? I just like it. I like it. Okay.
President Trump was telling European leaders what was discussed was Putin demanding control of Donetsk, a region in the east that his forces do not fully hold. And the UK estimates that taking that full area could be as long as another 4 years. Did the U.S. accept all of what Putin laid out at that table?
The United States is not in a position to accept anything or reject anything because ultimately it's up to the Ukrainians. They're the ones that Russia has to make peace with.
Well, the president said he did come to
It's up to the Ukrainians to make these conditions. Well, the agreements were that we were going to try to do things like, for example, get a leaders meeting. We have to make enough progress so that we can sit down President Zelensky and President Putin in the same place, which is what President Zelensky's been asking for, and reach a final agreement that ends this war.
But ultimately, if Vladimir Putin is going to be offered land that he has not seized yet, but negotiates his way into, doesn't this set a dangerous precedent that the United States now accepts this concept that it is okay to seize land by force?
Well, Putin's already seized land by force, and that in and of itself is not a positive precedent. This whole war
is demanding a withdrawal?
Precedent. Well, again, in order to have a deal here to reach the end of this conflict, both sides are going to have to make concessions. That's just a fact in any negotiation.
Where Russian forces are?
But if
you know what she's doing right there.
But this is not.
You know she's doing this. You just know it. She's doing this. These people in their pens.
Well, but this is not about acceptance. This is about what Ukraine can accept and what Russia can accept. They both have to accept it. Otherwise, there won't be a peace deal. Okay? If there aren't concessions, if one side gets everything they want, that's called surrender. That's called the end of the war through surrender. And that's not what we're close to doing because neither side here is on the verge of surrender or anything close to it. So in order for there to be a peace deal, this is just a fact. We may not like it. It may not be pleasant. It may be distasteful. But in order for there to be an end of the war, there are things Russia wants that it cannot get, and there are things Ukraine wants that it's not going to get. Both sides are going to have to give up something in order to get to the table, in order to make this happen. That's just the way it is. Territories will have to be discussed. It's just a fact. And there are things that maybe Russia's holding now that they're going to have to give up. Who knows? The point is, we need to create a scenario where that becomes possible. And that's why this has been so hard, because neither side up to now has been willing to give on some of these things. But we'll see if that's possible. It may not be, but we're going to try, and we're going to do everything we can to try to achieve a peace.
So all the leaders are showing up to the White House tomorrow. A bunch of them. You got to watch this. This is a great part.
Well, he's got the leverage over Vladimir Putin if he wanted to crush his economy or at least do more damage to it. But you have held off on those secondary sanctions. President Trump told Fox News his advice to President Zelensky is make a deal. Russia's a very big power, and they're not. There's concern from the Europeans that President Zelensky is going to be bullied into signing something away. That's why you have these European leaders coming as backup tomorrow. Can you?
No, it isn't. That's not why they're coming as back. That's not true. No, but that's not that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied.
They're not coming. That February Oval Office meeting in front of television cameras. where President Zelensky.
Do you know how many meetings we've had since then?
Oh, no, I know. And I was just up in
but we had
Alaska
a bunch of
watching the
meetings
one
since
with
then.
Vladimir Putin where a red carpet rolled
No,
out.
but
for the
with
Russian leader. It was
Zelensky, we've
very
had more
different.
meetings. We've had one meeting with Putin and like a dozen meetings with Zelensky. So, but that's not true. They're not coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're coming here tomorrow because we've been working with the Europeans. We talked to them last week. There were meetings in the UK over the previous weekend.
And they said President Trump was going to demand a ceasefire.
As early as Thursday. No. But you said that they're coming here tomorrow to keep Zelensky from being bullied. They're not coming here tomorrow. Oh, this is such a stupid media narrative that they're coming here tomorrow because Trump is going to bully Zelensky into a bad deal. We've been working with these people for weeks on this stuff. They're coming here tomorrow because they chose to come here tomorrow. We invited them to come. We invited them to come. The president invited them to come.
But the president told those European leaders last week that he wanted a ceasefire. The president went on television, said he would walk out of the meeting if Vladimir Putin didn't agree with one. He said there would be severe consequences if he didn't agree to one. He said he'd walk out in 2 minutes. He spent 3 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and he did not get one. So there's
because
some
obviously some things happened during that meeting. Well, because obviously things, look, our goal here is not to stage some production for the world to say, oh, how dramatic, he walked out. Our goal here is to have a peace agreement, to end this war, okay? And obviously we felt, and I agreed, that there was enough progress, not a lot of progress, but enough progress made in those talks to allow us to move to the next phase. If not, we wouldn't be having Zelensky flying all the way over here. We wouldn't be having all the Europeans coming all the way over here. Now understand, and take with a grain of salt, I'm not saying we're on the verge of a peace deal, but I am saying that we saw movement, enough movement to justify a follow-up meeting with Zelensky and the Europeans, enough movement for us to dedicate even more time to this.
At least you're doing something.
Look, at the end of the day, if peace is not going to be possible here, and this is just going to continue on as a war, people will continue to die by the thousands. The president has that option to then come in and impose new sanctions. But if he did this now, the moment the president puts those additional sanctions, that's the end of the talks.
No kidding.
You've basically locked in at least another year to year and a half of war and death and destruction. We may unfortunately wind up there, but we don't want to wind up there. We want to wind up with a peace deal that ends this war so Ukraine can go on
Everybody
with the rest of their lives
understands
and rebuild their country and be assured that this is never going to happen again. That's the goal here. We're going to do everything possible to make that happen if it's doable. It will require both sides to make concessions. It will require both sides to get things they're asking for. That's how these deals are made, whether we like it or not.
It's amazing to me. The left want you to think, oh, you're rolling out the red carpet for Putin. Who gives a rat's ass? Who cares? If it takes a red carpet, then you roll out the red carpet. Can I show you guys a little bit of NBC? It was on NBC like an hour later. Let's be honest. Since Trump has been sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress. But don't forget, while they're moving mountains for all of us, they can't also take your personal savings into account. You got to do that. One of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification. With gold from my trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, gold has increased by 40%. Global instability and tension is at its highest in decades. With Birch Gold, you can own physical gold, and it's easy. You can easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. You could even buy some and just put it in your home safe. How are you going to do this? We're going to send you a free info kit. Just text my name, Jaws, to the number 989898. No obligation, just information. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text the word JAWS to 989898. I just want to show you a little bit.
Yo, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So heading into the meeting with President Putin on Friday, President Trump said he wanted a ceasefire agreement. Now he is saying he wants a broader peace deal. We know that Ukraine, we know that European allies want a ceasefire first. Is a ceasefire now off the table, Mr. Secretary?
Where do they teach this? I almost went to broadcast school. I wasn't becoming a cop. They wouldn't accept me. So I'm like, well, plan B, I'm going to go into broadcasting. Honestly, this is back in 2001? 1999? 1999, 1998? Do they teach this with the pen? It must be Pen 101. That's what it is. You got to take Pen 101. Everyone stop what you're doing. I want everybody to take a look at Linda. Look how Linda's holding the pen. She's using all 4 fingers with her thumb on the cap. Linda! Linda! I'm losing it, I know. Let's keep going.
But this has been a priority for this president because he wants to promote peace. He wants to promote the end of a war. And I think we should be happy that we have a president that's trying to promote peace and bring a war to an end.
Mr. Secretary, let's look at the state of the war. It's really captured in this chart. I want to put it up on the screen for our viewers. It shows that Russian attacks on Ukraine have nearly doubled since President Trump came into office.
I knew it.
And in fact, in July, Russia launched more than 6,000 missiles and drones. That's the highest amount of attacks since the war began. What do you say to Ukrainians who worry that without a ceasefire in place, you are giving Putin more leverage at the negotiating table and a green light to drop more bombs?
Well, the problem with that is that we've been asking for a ceasefire for a long period of time. We think usually it's very hard to negotiate when you're in the middle of hostilities. But that said, the only way to have a ceasefire is for both sides to agree to stop firing at one another. And the Russians just haven't agreed to that.
But why not impose more sanctions on them and force them to agree to a ceasefire instead of accepting that Putin won't agree to one?
Just the tip.
Well, first, I think no evidence that
what did she say?
Because sanctions take months.
Because I was talking, I'm sorry. She said something really stupid.
Them and force them.
Agrees
she did.
That the peace deal, so there's not a war now and there's not a war in the future.
But why not impose more sanctions on them and force them to agree to a ceasefire instead of accepting that Putin won't agree to one?
Why not just force them, guys? Force Russia to a ceasefire. You can't make it up. Oh, how do these people have jobs? Well, she looks not too bad. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Maybe that's why. She's got the voice. She's got the pen. The tip of the pen there. I don't know if I want to watch anymore. Just force them. Why don't you just force? Well, stupid.
Well, first, I think that's something that a lot of people go around saying that I don't necessarily think is true. I don't think new sanctions on Russia are going to force them to accept the ceasefire. They're already under very severe sanctions. I think that should be. You could argue that could be a consequence of refusing to agree to a ceasefire or the end of hostilities. But there is no evidence that more sanctions, because sanctions take months and sometimes years to bite. And we may very well wind up in that place. I hope not, because that means that peace talks failed. But we have to give every opportunity for peace a chance in this particular case. And that's what we're trying to do here. And so those options remain to the president. The minute he takes those steps, all talk stop. The minute we take those steps, there is no one left in the world to go talk to the Russians and try to get them to the table to reach a peace agreement. So that moment may come. I hope not, because I hope we get a peace deal.
But so, Mr. Secretary, a lot of people have heard President Trump threaten sanctions for months, and they are wondering, are they empty threats? Why hasn't he punished Putin to date for this war since taking office?
He just answered you.
Well, again, every single sanction that was in place on the day he took over remained. And the impact of all those sanctions remain. You know, when the Russians landed in Alaska, they were there to refuel. They had to offer to pay in cash to refuel their airplanes because they can't use our banking system. They face consequences every single day.
Gold bars.
But the bottom line is that has not altered the direction of this war. That doesn't mean those sanctions are inappropriate. It means it hasn't altered the outcome of it. And here's what we do think is important, and that is that we end this war. To end this war, you have to be able to engage with the Russians. As much as people may not like it, as distasteful as people may find it, the only way to end this war is to get the Russians to agree, as well as the Ukrainians, but the Russians to agree to a peace deal.
Red carpet,
and
bitch.
The minute you issue new sanctions, your ability to get them to the table, our ability to get them to the table, will be severely diminished. That moment may arrive, but when it comes, what you're basically signaling is there is no opportunity for peace at this point. So just let's put on more sanctions and allow more people to get bombed and more people to be killed, and that's what we're trying to stop.
Anyways, guys, I like this dude. I think he's killing it. You see what he's gonna do. He's gonna be so polished in 3 years. Videos coming your way. I got 1,000 of them, good and bad. So stay tuned. Bye-bye.